This week's Torah reading begins with a conversation between Moshe and God, and the commentaries wonder what it is that they are talking about. There's a thrust in the Midrashim that indicates that Moshe felt, and he expressed to God, that the Jewish people, based on their present behavior, did not deserve to be taken out of Egypt. And that is the conversation that God is having with Moshe. You see, according to the Midrashim, God turns to Moshe and says, you know, Moshe, it may be the case that based on the current behavior of the Jewish people, that they don't deserve to be taken out of Egypt. But you are wearing blinders, Moshe, because you are forgetting that you are part of a historic mission. After all, I promised Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov that their children would become a great nation, and I also promised them that they would inherit, that those children, that nation would inherit the land of Israel. So Moshe, you can't just look at this mission locally. You can't just look at the here and now details of this mission. You must look at this mission from my perspective, says God, from the perspective of history and the historic mission that Abraham started and that you and the Jewish people are a part of. That is how God, if you will, convinces Moshe to rededicate himself to the mission of taking the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. I find this approach to be very helpful. There are often times when we look at our Jewish world, at the way Jewish history is unfolding, and sometimes we may get discouraged. We may be upset or disappointed at the way the Jewish world looks. Recent articles and comments in the Israeli press also indicate that segments of the religious Zionist community are depressed, are concerned or disappointed with the way that Israel, the state of Israel, is developing. They perceive a lack of religiosity or a lack of commitment to the idea of a Jewish state. And to both of these claims, we can look to the words of God to Moshe at the beginning of this week's Torah reading. And that is, it's true. There may be certain times in history, certain periods of our existence, which are challenging to us, which perhaps depress us and make it difficult for us to carry on our work on behalf of the Jewish people. But then we are reminded that we are part of a historic mission and we must keep our eyes on the prize. The prize is the promise that God made to Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, that he reiterated to Moshe, and that he has reiterated to our people throughout history. We are all part of a historic mission. We are part of our local situation, but we are part of something much greater, much grander than the local facts that we may be looking at or enduring at any given moment. That is what should animate us towards a great future, towards being part of the Jewish people, towards continuing our dedication to the Jewish people, to the state of Israel. That is what God had to tell Moshe to get him back on track. He had to remind him and say, Moshe, remember that you are on a historic mission. Keep your eye on that aspect of your work. It was good advice to Moshe, and it is invaluable advice to us as well. We are part of something great. We have to be concerned with our local situation, but we also have to recognize that there's something much greater out there. There is a great Jewish history, and perhaps even a greater Jewish future awaiting those who see themselves as being part of a historic mission and working towards achieving success in that historic mission. Shabbat Shalom.